Hello and welcome back to Whiskey Wars. My name is Sean, and tonight we get into the semifinals of March Madness. Yes, tonight we find out which one of these 6 bourbons in this 6-way blind will be moving on to the Fantastic Four. Let's get into it. So first, before we get our glasses and bottles up on the table, let's first do a quick recap of what has happened so far. Let's bring up the bracket here so we can see what has happened. So in round 1, we had Long Branch as well as Russell's 10-year moving on. In round 2, we had Woodford Reserve and 1792 Small Batch moving on. In round 3, we had Maker's Mark 46 and Buffalo Trace moving on. In round 4, we had Old Scout and Redwood Pipe Dream moving on. In round 5, we had Cooper's Craft 100 and Rowan's Creek moving on. And then finally, in round 6, we have Maker's Mark Cast Strength and Old Grandad 114 moving on. So of course, tonight's lineup is the left bracket of the Tasty 12. And of course, we got Long Branch, Russell's 10-year, Woodford, Redwood Empire's Pipe Dream, Old Scout, and Rowan's Creek. So let's get these things poured and get to drinking. So, Glass A will be Long Branch. I have to say, this is a heck of a lineup we have tonight. It'll be interesting to see what comes out on top. Glass B will be Russell's 10-year. Glass C will be Woodford Reserve. Glass D will be Redwood Empire's Pipe Dream. Glass E will be Old Scout. Always a tight cork on the Old Scout. And finally, Glass F will be Rowan's Creek. So again, a stacked lineup tonight for sure. Can't wait to see which one of these 2 will be moving on. Let's get these things on the Drunken Susan and spun up. All right, here we go. Round and round we go. Oh, they are being really unruly today because they're farther out than normal. It got a slow spin so we don't lose any whiskey. That would be a crime. All right, let's do some more spinning, more spinning, more spinning. Okay, we're just gonna kind of start taking them off. Something like that. Yes. As usual, we will go ahead and start with Glass 1 and work our way to Glass 6. Yep, this is a 6-way blind. It will be very interesting. Glass 1. So there's what Glass 1 is. Got a nice cherry note, decent little kind of milk chocolate note on there. Lots of brown sugar, nice cinnamon, definitely a cherry note in there as well. Hints of vanilla, nice kind of creamy notes. Pretty mouth coating. I will say the finish was kind of short though. Let's go ahead and move on to glass number 2. So there's what Glass 2 is. Got a lot more sour notes on that one, a lot more sour oak notes. Maybe kind of a grassy note in there. Also kind of some lemon, lots of citrus coming through. Can't say that was my favorite. Although, maybe I still had some lingering from the first sip. I did cleanse my palate in between, but there can be crossover. So we'll see how that does going back through a second time. Let's go ahead and get into glass number 3. So there's glass number 3. That one tasted more mature than I would say the first 2. Not necessarily in the best of ways though. There is a little bit of a tannic oak note there. It is overall nice. There's a nice cherry note. It's kind of a darker cherry than Glass 1. Nice kind of toasty oak notes there as well, but there is just a hint of kind of a drying quality, a tannic oak note. There is a pretty good kind of coffee note showing through, as well as kind of like a dark chocolate, a very true dark chocolate. All in all, not a bad sip. I would say probably only second to Glass 1 so far. Let's move on to glass number 4. All right, so there is Glass 4. Nice sip. I would say probably better than Glass 3 in my mind. So kind of coffee, chocolate, a little bit of toffee coming through, a little bit of sweet tobacco on that. There's also a drying kind of tannic oak note in this one as well. I would say they're similar in that regard. but this is more of the flavor profile that I tend to lean towards. Also a really nice caramel note in there. Just a hint of spice, a little black pepper, a little cinnamon. The finish gets a little more oaky, like a more toasted oak. Lots of barrel spice showing through. So interesting to see how these will all fare. Let's go ahead and move on to glass 5. So here is what glass 5 is, and I'm guessing that's the Rowan's Creek. Man, does it stand out. It's so different than your typical bourbon profile. And not in a bad way. If that is in fact the Rowan's Creek, which I'm guessing it is, then just that kind of orange creamsicle, it's very sweet, much less of the wood notes that you get on a lot of the other bourbons. It's just more citrus, sweet. There's little sour notes in there, but they're not bad. It's kind of like if you roasted oranges over a wood fire. So you get a little bit of that smoky, kind of charred wood kind of flavor coming through. But then also, if you topped those kind of wood roasted orange slices with like whipped cream. So it's a really interesting combination of flavors, but very good. So I'm guessing that's the Rowan's Creek. We'll find out here shortly. Let's move on to glass number 6. So glass number 6 must be the Brown-Forman bottle. I'm guessing that's the Woodford. You guys can see at home. Again, kind of like the Rowan's Creek, it just stands out from the others. All these are fairly typical bourbon notes. You know, you got your cherry, that's a pretty common one these days. Of course, brown sugar, vanilla, caramel, toasted oak, charred oak, pepper, cinnamon. Those are all things you find in most bourbons. But then you get this kind of sweet, like banana bread, kind of chocolatey note in what I'm guessing is a Brown-Forman product here, that you just don't find in many other bourbons. And I like things that are interesting. When you have a decent collection and you just keep finding the same notes over and over again, when you find something that's different, then it really stands out. And these last two glasses, whatever they may be, I'm guessing this is the Rowan's Creek and that's the Woodford, they just stand out as being exceptional in my mind because they are so different. But anyway, we're going to do some blinds off camera and see which one will come out on top. Well, which two, I should say. We'll be right back. Okay, after drinking way too much whiskey way too fast, we are back. I have to say, I thought the last round was hard. This round was by far the hardest round I have done so far. It took me forever to figure out what my second place was because these three, I mean, totally different, but so great. I might call an audible and throw a third one from this into the Fantastic Four, which then would be 5. So we're gonna have to rename it because I almost want to put all 3 of these in the finals. They were all great. Anyway, let's move on to our last place. Stop stalling, right? Anyway, so last place is B. B is, oh wow. Well, this is a bit of an upset. It is what it is. Man, the whiskey is hitting pretty hard right now. Got to be honest. That was a lot of whiskey to drink in a short period of time. Russell's 10-year. So what dinged this the most is for some reason, like right in past the shoulder, it was really great. There was really nice cherry notes, like a nice toasted oak. But as it's gotten down into here, you know, maybe it's temperature, maybe it's air. I can't say exactly what the cause is, but what's for sure is that it's a lot of tannic oak and sour oak now, and kind of disappointing. Maybe just my bottle, hard to say. Anyway, that is 6th place, not moving on. Let's move on to 5th. 5th place is E. E is Old Scout. So I believe this was the other one that I got a tannic oak note on. And here's the thing, folks. All of these are great bottles. So let's be clear on that. I mean, they made it this far. Each one of these beat at least 2 other bottles to get here. 3 other bottles. 3 other bottles to get here. So these are not bad bottles by any means. Let's be clear on that. So I still would recommend any of these on the table. But we have to have a last, so in a 5th. So there you go. Old Scout, it comes in 5th. It had a bit of that tannic oak thing as well. It did not have the sour oak note, though, that this had, and that's what separated these, and that's why this came in 5th and this 6th. Anyway, moving along. Now we get on to the hardest blind I've ever done, I think. These were so close that I ran out of whiskey to try. Actually, that's not true. I have a little bit left. There's a smidgen there. Smidgen, a dram would be more accurate, which means sip. Anyway, these were so close that it kind of hurts me to not let all of them move on because they're all great. So there has to be a 4th place, so here we go. Can you guys see that? Let me see. Yeah, I actually had the right way up already. There you go. Perfect. So there you go. That's 4th place. A is Long Branch. Man, that's a hitter for me, so that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Let's move along. No time to stall. Let's look at the bottom first so I make sure I get the lineup right. D is 3rd, and D is Redwood Empire Pipe Dream. I have to say, even though this is just very typical bourbon notes, Redwood Empire has done a great job with this bottle. It was so hard to decide between 1 and 2. I just went back and forth, and I'm drinking water and trying to cleanse the palate and all that stuff. And man, this is a great bottle. So as far as I know, this is pretty readily available in most places. So if you guys haven't tried it, certainly worth a try, and so is Long Branch. Let's move these off the table. I can barely talk. I don't know if you guys are picking up on that. Talking is very hard right now because a 6-way blind is insane. It's for crazy people. Don't do it. Don't do it at home for fun. My thing fell off. There we go. Let's put that back up. These are off to the side. Now, the ones that matter, the kings. I have a feeling what these are. I almost am certain what these are because they're so incredibly different from anything else on the table. These you could maybe mix up. These you can't mix up with anything. And I think that's what makes them great. Now, I'm guessing this is Rowan's Creek. Let's see if I'm right. F. F is Rowan's Creek. Guys, if you have not picked up this bottle, you need to do so. It is a great bottle of whiskey. And shout out to Still Living in the Woods for recommending it to me. I had written off Willet like as a company because of the pot still. I hate the pot still. But this bottle is fantastic. So if you haven't tried it, go get it. Now, that means our first place is Woodford. And I know it's not really a surprise at all because I love the Brown-Forman profile. I do. But both of these are moving on, so there could be some upsets. So something to keep in mind. I realize I'm not talking the most clearly. Words are hard right now because 6 whiskeys. We shouldn't do this. So lastly, folks, if you've liked the video, then please actually like it right down below. And here is the subscribe button right here. And here is the playlist for March Madness. So subscribe and then watch that thing. And until next time, folks, just remember, you can never have too much good whiskey.